Okay, so we had a little technical glitch there. First time in 3.5 meetings. We're back
Yes.
with part 2 of chapter 4, and you left us down on the cliffhanger of George Jovanovic. You'd offered him 2 choices. He knew he had to leave with you. Sorry, he could walk off on his own feet, or you would carry him off. And what happened next?
And I asked him which he'd rather, and he said, "Oh, I'll walk off." So I said, good decision, George. So we walked off. And I got to the boundary and I turned around and gave the umpire a wave to say, we're off, all set. And he was just about to bounce the ball. And George shouted out, "Anyway, you're not getting my fucking 2 bob." Because all the boys had to take 2 shillings to pay the umpire. And George's insult was he's not going to pay it.
Well, there's a reason that George Jovanovic was known as Dirty George, and I guess he earned that reputation from a very young age. So there you go. There's Dirty George. All right. What else? What else do we remember from Marlborough Street, either associated with East Adelaide or not, or just generally living in Porridge Park as it was known?
Well, I think incidentally, East Adelaide is where I used to go to school. So
there you go. Yeah. Okay.
Snippet. But the other thing in Marlborough Street, you boys used to dawdle up and down across up the street during the Royal Show, because Ron Sedsman, the show director, lived in the street, and he was a very, very soft touch for show tickets if he happened to see him. So you occasionally, all of you in procession, would take a run past, just hoping, hello, how are you, Mr. Sedsman? Hello, boys.
We were definitely fair weather friends with Mr. Sedsman, and the only fair weather was when the show was on. That was true for sure.
And I think you had a little incident at the show as a result of one of those tickets, didn't you?
Yeah. It was one of those days that Mum was looking forward to, because Jamie and I would be out of the house, and I mean, you wouldn't do it these days, but we got on the bus by ourselves at the age of probably 9, 10, maybe 11, but certainly pretty young. And to go over to Wayville, which is where the showgrounds were, it's a bit of a hike, but we got on the bus by ourselves and we went over there. And Mum must have been excited that, Jamie and I would be gone for the whole day because we had these free tickets. Sadly, we returned not long after, like an hour and a half or so later. And what had happened was that we had some money from Mum as well for the show. And of course, we spent it on healthy food like candy floss or fairy floss. Maybe bought some donuts as well, scoffed all that stuff, and then used our free tickets to go on a ride. And one particular ride I remember, which was called the, not the Mad Mouse, well, what was it called? It was called the Rock and Roll. And the Rock and Roll was a device. The ride went around in a big circle, and then there were cages on it. And the cages held 2 people sitting facing each other, and the cages went like that while the ride went like that. And after a gutful of fairy floss, it did not end well. So Jamie and I were in this coffin-shaped thing, sitting side by side, facing these 2 girls, when I started projectile vomiting on the 2 girls underneath us. And then it spun around again, and then we were on our backs. And so then I was throwing up in the air, and it was falling back on us. And it got me, it got Jamie, it got the 2 girls. So anyway, purple, pink, vomit, got on the bus, went home. Yeah, Mum had to deal with us because you would have been at work, right, Dad?
Sure.
Smart move. But yeah, going to the show with Mr. Sedsman's tickets was always a highlight. There's a number of people that lived in that street. Some who became good friends of ours, Ludowices, of course, the Mukies, as you mentioned, who brought it. Who else was there? There were the Seatons all the way up. The Hugheses moved in for a few years, and I still see Christian Hughes and Hamish Hughes and the wonderful late Jenny Hughes. Who else was in the street that you remember that were friends?
Oh, that's about it. But it was clearly there were lots of friends, and it was a great place to live.
Yeah, indeed.
What was I thinking about? And one of the advantages being there was we had the opportunity for Jean to take you boys down to Goolwa periodically. And that was, occasionally for weekends if I was away somewhere, or during the week occasionally. And I remember on one fateful day, she was driving you 4 boys, a little Volkswagen, back from Victor Harbour back to Goolwa about close to midnight. One night she'd been having dinner with the Harpers.
Yes.
And got halfway along the big stretch of open road between Goolwa and Victor Harbour and Goolwa, and ran out of petrol. And in those days, the little Volkswagen didn't have a fuel gauge. It just had a switch-over tank. That when you just about out of petrol, you switch to the emergency, and that gave you another 100 Ks or something like that.
That doesn't sound like Mum. That doesn't sound like Mum to put herself in a position where she would be switching over to the reserve or the emergency tank to find it empty. That's not like her, is it?
No, I think it was my fault. I'd switched it over and forgotten to fill it up and forgot to mention it. And of course, there was no display or anything that said it. So there she was, stuck with the 4 of you nearly midnight. And she went and knocked on a farmer's door and got some petrol, I think. That wasn't one of my better performances, I have to say.
We've all had those. Speaking of driving, do you want to bring up that Altalpa? Was it? No, it wasn't Altalpa. Where was it? Where you drove and just about killed us all?
Don't worry about that. Was going up to see the miles up at, I think we did it, just swapped ends a bit, didn't we, or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think it did a 360 or something like that with 4 kids, no seatbelts. And but that's what you did, right? I mean, those were the days. We all survived.
Yeah, another little one I remember vividly is I used to have to go to Sydney a lot and get the early morning plane. And I remember one morning I got up and went out and was just about to leave, and I realised Jamie was up and eating his breakfast. And I said, "Oh, you're up early?" And he said, "Yeah, I've wanted my breakfast." "Where are you going?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to Sydney." He said, "Oh, have you told Mum?" And I said, "Yes, I had mentioned it." And she of course was having a lot of fun with those Afghan hounds.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know whether the Siamese cat TC made it over to Sprott Avenue or whether that was only Afghan hounds, I think, at Marlborough Street. But the Siamese cat was definitely at Sprott Avenue.
Yes.
I don't know whether that cat made it.
We had a dog at Sprott Avenue too for a while.
Right, called Sam.
Yep.
Sam the dog. Marlborough Street also, I guess, was the introduction to the Bishop family for large pool tables or snooker tables. That's fair, isn't it? Right? Did you ever have one in any previous house?
Oh yes, we did. We had one in. Oh no, that's afterwards. No, that was the origin was in Marlborough
Street. Yeah, right. And then there was a game. There was a game that required alcohol and no sticks.
Called Slosh.
Yes. So how do you play Slosh, Dad? What's Slosh? And who introduced the game? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember.
Right. Okay. So what's Slosh?
It consisted of rolling billiard balls across the
table without sticks, and you had to be at the end, and you weren't allowed to stand in the way of people running around chasing balls. Is the bottom right? Yeah.
I've forgotten the rules. In fact, there weren't any. I don't think. It used to be a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And
go on.
I was going to say, we always had a lot of people on Christmas Eve, and Brian Bergin was always one of those, and he always bought a Christmas present for Andrew, his godson.
Yeah.
And one Christmas he came and he didn't have the present for Andrew. And Andrew was very upset about that. And the following April, we had I think it might have been our 25th wedding anniversary or something, had a big party.
Yeah.
And about 7 o'clock, Brian Bergin appeared in the front door, walked in, went in straight to the kitchen, poured himself a scotch as usual, and he was dressed in a Father Xmas outfit.
Mm.
and so we said, what? He said, why are you in? He said, I don't understand people. He said, here I was in the middle of April in the office, went and got on the Father Xmas outfit because I'd forgotten to bring a present to Andrew. Went down to the boardroom, had a drink with a few of the clients from there, walked out, got myself a taxi, came in, and here I am, sat down, and nobody said to me, what the hell are you doing in a Father Xmas outfit in the middle of April? He said, I just don't understand people. People don't understand him either.
So Brian, of course, was in the advertising PR business forever, right?
Yeah.
And you and Mum met him through Footlights at university, I think. Is that correct?
Basically, yes. Although I was at school with his younger brother, Neville.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah.
I remember Neville was having a cocktail party before a Blue and White at one stage down in their house at Glenelg. And Brian, whom I hadn't met at that stage, sort of swept into the room and gave his mother a kiss on the shoulder and said, hello. He said, oh, Mum, the Peruvian ambassador is arriving in Adelaide tomorrow for Prosh Day. And he said, I need some good fabric, so I'm sorry, I need the curtains. So he proceeded to take down the curtains in the sitting room, and off he went to
how is it? As the Peruvian
for the Peruvian ambassador the next day.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And let's not get distracted by Goolwa, but Brian ended up living at Goolwa, or being the residence at Goolwa, for how long approximately?
Well, what happened was that Brian had made some noises about writing up the history of the Footlights or something like that.
Yeah.
And he said, I really need somewhere to do it. And Jen said, well, look, why don't you stay here?
Yeah.
He come down for the weekend, and we said, you can stay here for as long as you like. Easy. So he said, oh, thanks very much. And I think he stayed, it turned out, for about 5 years.
and how was the book? Non-existent?
We never found it.
5 years of looking and never found it.
At one stage, he did send something out and get it typed.
Yeah.
But we didn't see that either.
Right.
And
okay.
after he died, we couldn't find any trace of the book. But he was a wistful character. I remember he said to me one day, I went to get on the bus to go up to town the other day, and blow me down, someone was sitting in my seat. So he said I had to go and sit on the other side of the bus. And he said, it's quite interesting. You see, you take a totally different view of life when you see it from the other side of the bus.
Eccentric would be a good word to describe.
He was a one-off. Yeah.
All right. So Porridge Park, some big parties. Obviously, you played tennis there. Your friends came in. You were part of a tennis club.
Yes, started a tennis troop. Well, actually, we started it when we were in Sprott Avenue.
Right. Okay, but then you moved it to Marlborough Street.
Yep. And that sort of survived for 40 years or so.
Yeah.
Now there's nobody left that can get a racket over their arm. I don't think so.
No, well, you stopped playing. You are now 84 years old, correct? Yep. And you're still playing golf, but you stopped playing tennis about 5 years ago?
Yeah, at least that.
Yeah. And didn't you have a fall or something, and you just realised that it was too...
Oh, I did break a leg at one stage of playing tennis, but that wasn't what stopped me.
Right. Yeah.
I just slid and twisted the ankle and broke something.
Ouch. Yeah. All right. So anything else? Marlborough Street Porridge Park, obviously a big part of our lives, because, we all went to school there, and it was easy walking distance to Saints.
Yep.
But about 1983, I think, is when you moved beyond.
Yeah.
Because
What-
all the
what
boys had
happened-
left Saints.
Yeah, we decided that the schooling was all over. We did like the other side of town.
Yeah.
And we finished up finding Regine found when I was away somewhere a house that needed a fair bit of work.
Yeah.
But it was almost opposite from where we used to live, across Unley Road, the other side.
Yeah.
Just one street in.
Yeah.
On a corner block. It was a very nice house, but it was a bit run down.
Yeah.
And we decided we would do some fairly major renovation before we moved in.
Right.
But we managed to find a group of hippies that were looking for somewhere, and they paid enough rent a week to cover the rates and things while we did all the planning.
Yeah.
And then we moved in, and within no time we made great friends with Charlie Hayne and Janny, the next door neighbours.
Yeah.
So we cut a hole in the fence and put a gate on, and we used to spend a lot of time with the Haynes.
Yeah.
But I mean, certainly Malvern was a very nice area, and we were delighted to be back in that southern side of town.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we moved in there, I think, in 83, or might have been early 84 before we actually got in, because of the extensions that we had done.
Yeah.
And that's where we stayed until 2006.
Wow. So, oh, wow. So, yeah, I didn't realize you were there for 23 years and only 13 years at Marlborough Street. So, wow, that's a long time. All right. So,
and when we went to this house, we put a pool in there as well. That was quite a useful addition.
And no Davy Bell to tell you where the pipes were. So did you?
No, we didn't need that. Yeah. And what else can I say about 84? Oh, the one thing I should have mentioned was after we'd sold Marlborough Street and the Christmas parties, I did say to the new buyers, possibly one or two people will turn up on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Because a lot of my friends who are living and working overseas use it as a place to catch up with their friends.
Yeah.
So I said, if just a few people turn up, please just tell them that we've moved.
Yeah.
Anyway, they rang me on the Christmas Eve and said, there's quite a lot of people here, come and join in. So they'd very kindly decided to give them a drink or two. And then I said to them, right, now that's terrific. Now, next year, just hang up a sign at the front gate saying, piss off, they don't live here anymore. which I think they almost did.
Yeah, yeah.
But
that's fine. That's good. They invited you to the first one. But
yeah.
So I just thought of something else that I think is worth mentioning about Marlborough Street Porridge Park, and that is besides a grass tennis court and besides a swimming pool and besides a small front yard, there was a very substantial rose garden that was really Mum's sort of pride and joy, I guess. So she used to spend a lot of time there, and was very, it certainly wasn't the botanical gardens in terms of being that ornate, but it was a very planned out and a very substantial piece of real estate or agriculture, I guess.
And she had her bird Fierce, the white cockatoo, shrinking away in the corner.
Yeah. So was Fierce at Marlborough Street and then got moved to Cheltenham Street?
I don't remember. I think
Fierce was Cheltenham Street more than Marlborough Street, but I could be.
He wasn't. I don't think he was at Marlborough Street.
Yeah.
But we had this quite. Well, I think the nice cage was there. That might have been the incentive.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing that I do remember of Marlborough Street, this is more of a mum memory than a dad memory, was that we all had our own bedrooms because the house was substantial. And my bedroom had a bunk bed that was built in. and then the entire ceiling was posters that Mum put up, and so it was a wallpaper of posters. So often in a room you would just have like a second color of paint that went all the way around. And what I had was a completely wallpapered series of my posters, which was pretty good. And the bed was purple, and I remember that. So there you go. That's my memories of Marlborough Street. All right. Yeah. So unless there's anything else, should we hang this up for chapter 4, part 2?
We've done pretty well. As you know, we stayed on in Marlborough Street, in Cheltenham Street until 2006. Yeah. And sadly, that's where Jean died.
Yeah, yeah.
And it wasn't long after that I then decided to look for somewhere, perhaps where I could have a combined office as well as living.
Yeah.
And I was very keen and looked around, particularly in the East End market area, because of the family association with the property.
Yeah.
And eventually the agent said to me, "Oh, there's one apartment that's now on the market, but it's not listed as yet."
Yeah.
And it's a fairly acrimonious divorce between a husband and a wife.
Yeah.
And I think they're both very keen to get it sold.
Yeah.
So I went and had a look, and I walked in and I thought, this is it. Right. I want it.
Yeah.
So I finished up paying more than I probably should have at that time.
Yeah.
To get this apartment where I now live, and I'll go out in a box from here. I'm not planning to go anywhere else.
But we've discussed this before. The building is, where your apartment is, right above where Silbert Sharp and Bishop's
directly above the potato store.
Right, exactly.
Right on the corner, that was the potato store.
Right, exactly.
And that whole East End market was redeveloped in about the 1980s.
Yeah.
Because the market used to choke up all the streets with all the tradesmen.
Yeah.
Three mornings a week.
Yeah.
And eventually they decided, or the city council decided, they just had to move out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they went up to Paraka, out near the airport.
Right. Okay.
And that's where the wholesale fruit and vegetable market now is.
Yeah.
But that left the whole area in East Terrace up for redevelopment.
Right.
And it was redeveloped by about 5 or 6 different operators building this little village, really.
Yeah.
And we're on the outside corner of North Terrace and Grenfell Street, and we're just exactly where the potato store was, and
so I think that's a great, wonderful sort of coincidence almost, right? Because the apartment itself is just superb, right? And to be able to look at the parklands and to have an entire floor, or you don't have an entire floor, you have a half a floor, right? Yeah, you have half a floor.
Yeah, each floor is 2 apartments. They're shadow mirror image of each other, but they're 4-bedroom.
Yeah, but you can walk around outside, can't you, from one side to the other? Yeah.
We've got the only level, in fact, where there is an outside balcony.
Yeah.
And I think that is, in fact, a help because it deflects some of the traffic sound.
Right. Yeah.
So our apartment is not, we don't get worried by traffic noises and things.
Right. Good.
So it's a lovely space to live.
Excellent. All right.
That's probably now a good place to have a settle.
And the good news is that I'm still seeing a sign at the top of my screen saying recording, and it's blinking red. So,
you think you've got it all?
So hopefully we've got it all. So that's good. So we are, and I guess just for political or historical reference, since the last time I spoke to you, we've had an election in the United States. Our esteemed President Donald Trump has still not conceded, despite the fact that the election happened on the 3rd of November, which is quite a few weeks ago. Still has not conceded officially. We suspect he will not concede ever. And it's going to be very interesting to watch his behavior leading up to the 20th of January, which is when the new president officially takes office at noon on that particular day.
Yeah.
But interesting times around us.
Today, I think he almost mentioned that he might have to move out.
Yeah.
I think he's acknowledging that maybe he can't stay in the White House.
And of course, this at a time when coronavirus in the US is absolutely at its peak. Since it started in March. I mean, it's worse now than it's ever been. And Australia is virtually coronavirus free. And Adelaide had a small outbreak the other day, but it's night and day between what's going on outside your house and what's going on outside my house. So it's interesting, challenging times. The good news for me and my entire family is that everybody is well. All the kids are, they're the ones that are most actively out and about doing things. They're constantly getting coronavirus tested. So far, touch wood, nobody has been sick or close to being sick, but there's, this thing is not over.
Yeah.
All right.
And while you're just having got that small summary yourself, just thinking Andrew now is fully retired from the railways and he's now chairman of TARAC.
Yeah.
I had the annual meeting this week, which he handled very well.
Excellent.
By what do you call it? Skype? Or
Zoom probably. Zoom or Skype.
Zoom. And he and Les are well, and their family are fine, and he's now a great grandfather, as you know.
Yes, indeed, you are. Patrick must be 3 months old, I guess now. I would guess. Patrick, it'd be about 3 months old. Is that about right?
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jamie and Trudy.
Jamie and Trudy going well down at Goolwa.
Yeah.
And David is just seeing himself. Just drifting between his 2 houses, which are disgraces. And apart from that, life's good.
Good. All right. So let's hang it up. Let's try and get one more done this year, Dad. We've got the month.
Yeah, we'll do a pre-Christmas one.
Yeah,
perhaps.
We'll do one for sure. All right. Well, stay well, stay healthy. Lots of love from all of us. Okay.
Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.